Hey
Hello,
guys.
happy Valentine's
I
Day,
know, I
everyone.
see we've got
Yep,
Yurok in the chat. We've got Margie. Margie, happy Valentine's Day,
yep.
my friend.
Got Yvonne
Hello, Yvonne. How are
from East
you?
Bernstadt, Kentucky.
How you doing? How's the weather down there? Are you guys getting a little warm like we are here?
Yeah, makes it itchy to get ready for gardening
It's
stuff.
really hard. Thankfully, Mother Nature's kind of kicked us back down a little bit. The last couple of days have really been like highs in the 30s or 40s, which kind of brings us back down to reality. But for the most part, like I'm just over here getting ready to break into my seeds. I should have started some winter sowing already, but
Mm-hmm.
I never get ahead of my garden like I should.
Yeah.
Never.
You're busy making soaps and
Yeah. We've kind of switched lots of gears on the farm here lately. So, and then when we switch back to the gardening gear, it's like it has to be done now because we're behind or haven't started my seeds. So, What is everybody's big plans for Valentine's Day? Our plans are here.
Yep.
This is our day.
Going alive with all of you.
This is our day. We had a lovely dinner of fish sticks and mac and cheese.
Yeah.
But it was one of those nights where I'm like, I don't really want to cook. I didn't really want to go out anywhere. I didn't really want to go out either, just because all the places are packed around Valentine's Day, and every place is really expensive now. It's hard to tip. Is anybody else finding that? Like when you go and sit down to eat someplace, you're like, I have to tip, and I have to tip. And if they do a good job, they should be tipped accordingly, because everything else is more expensive. I just find myself being a cheapskate where I'm like, if they have a drive-through or a takeout, that's what I'm going to do.
Mm-hmm.
I feel bad for the waiters and waitresses though. So, hey, Sam, how are you? Thank you. God bless you, Ashley Mark. Thank you. We appreciate that. God bless you too. We hope that everybody's doing good out there. So today we're going to be talking a little bit about what we're doing to get ready for our goat kidding season, because it's like 2 weeks away.
Yeah, it's coming up quick.
It's coming up really, really fast. I spent a lot of my weekend out in the barn kind of prepping, which is not like me to prep 2 weeks out to prep my stalls by like liming them and putting base layers of sawdust down. But it was one of those where I'm like, it's the last 50-degree day for like a week.
We have some girls that look like they're ready to pop. I mean, they are getting close.
Yeah, if anybody follows me on Facebook or the Mulberry Branch Facebook page, then you'll see like Pinky had her own little reel today, and she's looking large and in charge and very uncomfortable, but I don't have a due date for her.
Yep.
So she's either due in 2 weeks or she's due in 5 weeks, somewhere 2 to 5 weeks, which I hate. I usually hand breed, but I took her to my sister-in-law's or your sister, to have one of her really nice bucks breed Pinky, so that we can correct her front end assembly.
We shared bucks this year, which is nice. Gets us different bloodlines.
It does.
Across the board.
That is the good thing about having a family full of crazy goat people, because then we're never short of goats.
Yep.
Never, never, never. Oh, Patty's in the house.
Hello, Patty.
Hi, Patty. How are you, sweetie? Sam says, I don't go out because too many that would be an issue. Yep. I know that one of our friends has a nut allergy and has to like pay attention to everything, what it's fried in or what it's cooked on top. His parents are definitely allergic to shrimp.
Shellfish, yeah.
And they have to make sure like it can't even be cooked on the same surface, or they can tell. Which then there was one time we went to a Mexican restaurant. I don't know if your dad didn't read what was on it, but like they brought his plate and it had shrimp all over it. We're like, you can't eat that. He's like, I don't know why I ordered this. It's like, oh well.
Yeah. Patty said she still needs to get some dinner, but wanted to say hello. We're glad you're here,
Patty. But don't stay on our account. Don't starve yourself. If you're like me, you get hangry. And I have got a whomping headache today. I don't know if it's because the weather's going up and down. Hi, Megan
or Dylan, one of the two.
Yes. How are you?
Good to have you tonight.
Sam says dairy, eggs, gluten, and shellfish. Oh my God. Well, what can you eat, Sam?
There's still
like,
stuff out
I know
there.
there's still stuff out, but I look at that and I'm like, I love all those things. So it makes me feel sad because I enjoy eating that food, but that's so sad. Sam says just to name a few. So that's only at the top of the list. Oh my gosh. Well, I'm sorry that you can't go out and eat as much, but it's probably good because the food out there is just terribly unhealthy and very, very expensive at the moment. It's better to probably eat in.
Speaking of eggs, our ducks have been laying like crazy, surprisingly. Our chickens have been slackers still, but our ducks have made up for it. So
I think the chickens are having an issue with producing, because with the livestock guardian dogs now in 2 pens during the day, I am really hesitant to let them out to free range, because that is one of the few things where I'm like, when I do a recall on them, and tell them to stop. Chickens are one of the few things where it's really hard to kind of break their focus because they flap and squawk and run and do all the crazy things. So I haven't been letting them out to free range almost at all. Yeah. So I think that's been part of it. Yeah. Usually in the wintertime, they get a lot of their extra nutrients from going out into our garden. But I am getting ready to do a manure pile move to our in-ground garden and to spread that and to let them do a lot of that permaculture for me. So I guess I will just watch diligently to make sure that they don't get within grasp of either livestock guardian dogs. So that's one thing that they're struggling with.
I think the ducks are laying. So with the warmer weather, we've actually been making good progress on our duck shelter.
Yes.
Or what is it, the quack den?
Yeah, the quack den.
She's probably going to put a sign up on it.
The quack den.
But it's much bigger than the old one. So I think they're looking at like, we need to fill this space. So
yeah, like, oh, this is a huge house.
Because a couple of them tried to sit on them, didn't they?
They're already trying to sit, and we keep getting fluctuations, and it's like they're only half-heartedly sitting. So a couple will sit for like a couple days in a row, and then they'll stop.
They'll give up, yeah.
And I'm like, oh, so we're not there yet, but it does make it nice because then I have hatching eggs. It's bad if I want to eat them though, because then I have to candle them to make sure that this isn't one that like they sat on for 2 or 3 days and then abandoned. That's not really fun to crack into.
For sure.
Patty says, I have a fat pork steak calling my name. Oh, that sounds so
Yeah, lately
good.
We've been eating, my sister, her son had a pig for the fair, and we've had fresh pork the last few months.
And it's really good.
Amazing.
It is really, really
so much
good.
Different than out of the store. I feel
yeah. It's really good.
Yeah, really
and it was
fresh.
a good way to support him with his livestock project. And because, you know, when you do 4-H projects, especially like the market animals, they have to make weight. And his poor piggy didn't make weight. Yeah. They just ran so much. They were like speedy pigs.
Because we got to enjoy it. It's actually really good pork. So
yeah, so like he didn't get to take his animal through auction, but we definitely bought some of the pork.
Bacon,
we
sausage,
love it.
all of it's been good.
It's all been very good.
Pork steaks, we've had a couple of those.
There's ham in there. We ought to do the ham.
Yep, ham will be delicious as well.
Maybe in stew or something.
Ultraman said their chickens are slacking like ours. So
yeah, so I'm glad to know.
Have to make some threats to them. They'll go in the freezer if they don't.
Well, I got so excited because I went out there the other day, Megan, and it was like they're I don't know, breaking the drought. And there were actually eggs, and there was like 10. I was like, yeah, baby. And the next couple of days, like 1, maybe 2 or 3. And then the next day there was nothing. So I'm like, okay, so did you just all get the springtime fever and then decided to cut off the faucet? Because I'm going to turn the spigot of eggs back on.
We didn't have to reduce our rooster. So we had a ton of roosters from the last batch.
We had like, what, 10?
Yeah.
10 total or 8 total. So I had to sell 6 or 8 of them. Yeah. And I kept 2 because they were running my poor girls ragged. Maybe that's why they're laying all the eggs.
Sounds like
Sam says healthy eating garden is really important. I just wish I could start here at this place. Need to wait for the next home. That is a hard season to be in. So I really feel for you, especially if you've ever gardened. The moment that it gets warm, like that garden bug hits
Patty
you.
was dealing with that with her move too.
Yeah.
So.
It's hard getting settled into a new place, or if you're in between places and you're in that mid season where it's like, this isn't where I'm going, but I have to be here for a little while. So I feel for you. I hope that goes quickly and that you get to that next home fast so that you can garden and play in the dirt again.
Yep. Yvonne said, once they get a taste of chicken blood, it's hard to break them. It really is. Yeah, they get that predatory instinct.
Well, it's just such a self-rewarding action for any dog. I mean,
chickens are bad too because they want to run. I mean, with our guardian dogs too, that was the biggest issue we had with the goats. Once they started to scurry and basically
Dexter's
start moving quickly, that's when they would get excited and want to run them.
And that's Dexter. Dexter has a higher prey drive, I feel like, than Rex, but Rex cannot resist a good game. So that's why they're separated. But Rex really likes chickens too.
Yeah.
He's gotten a lot better with the kitty cats where he knows to walk up. And I know when he's playing, he likes to do the bouncing. It's still really hard because they're only 8 months old and they don't look like puppies. They're huge. I mean, when I walk, my hand can rest easily, like on Rex's head with a nicely bent elbow because he's just so tall. But he's really, they're really, really sweet. We really enjoy having them.
Yeah.
Ellie was all excited and told me there was eggs in the nesting boxes. I went out and found a fake egg. Oh, Ellie was pulling.
could see Ellie doing that.
I could.
Yeah,
oh my goodness, your kids are such a joy to be around. Yeah.
And she said fake spring is so hard. It really is.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah, the other day we well, the last couple of days we smelled a couple skunks on the road that have been hit. So we're like,
it's gotten warm enough to wake them up, and we're like, you can stay asleep.
Around, yeah.
But I will say, like, the first time we smell a skunk, I'm like, okay, spring's coming.
Yeah.
But it's like weird because it's not a good smell. It's not like fresh spring rain or like smelling, like when grass starts to grow, like the air just feels fresher and it just.
Oh, the goats are loving it. They're out grazing, trying to get all the new sprouts. What did you have in the flower bed? Sprouting snowbells, was it?
Yeah, my snowdrops. My snowdrops are blooming. I have crocus that are coming up. The cherry trees starting to bud, but it scares me to death because this is a good way for fruit trees and perennial crops to kind of get stunted or to not fruit because they start to bud with that, especially if you have like a prolonged fake spring. They start budding and getting ready to bear fruit and to bloom, and then you get a really, really hard cold snap and it kills all of them. There have been a couple years here when that happens that we don't get mulberries. Like none of the trees come in to mulberry. And it makes me very sad.
Yeah.
And then I don't make jam. And then even when they do come in, I'm like, oh my gosh, I have to hurry up and get the berries to make jam.
One thing nice that happens though is we don't have to worry about all the coloring speckled all over our farm because when the birds eat them,
purple
cars, it's like purple dye. Like it's all
sometimes that's how I know.
Cars. Yeah.
Sometimes that's the only way that if I'm really busy, that I will know that they're ready.
Our bucks have a couple mulberry trees.
That's not, their poop doesn't turn purple. It just gets gross.
And they get runny. So you definitely know the berries are full bloom here by a couple different methods.
Mo. How are you?
Mo's able
How's
to join
everything doing?
Vaughn said 33 more days till spring. Yeah.
Keep telling me that.
Counting down.
Just keep counting down.
I'm starting to notice the days getting longer, and that's always exciting too.
It is exciting. And I know yesterday because of the boys not being trustworthy yet to be left alone with the goats, I close my goats up at night, and they're getting good with their routine. But yesterday we had Bible study at church, and I had to put them up before I left. I'm like, I just really don't want to leave them. And you're laughing because he's been watching me through the window, and yesterday he watched it. I would get them halfway in the barn, and they'd be like, we still have a half-hour daylight. And I'm like, I don't care.
Yeah, they're not ready for bed yet.
Once a couple little ones get past me and run, the whole all 40 of them go flying through the door, and I'm just out there screaming, "Are you serious? Are you serious?" And he's laughing.
Yeah, and the
he thinks it's hilarious.
Pregnant ladies just waddle around.
Like they just waddle after him, like, "Oh, girls, like just like."
Like I want to be part of this still.
Yeah.
So
on the warmer weather, they get rambunctious, and there's nothing that will lift your spirits more than seeing animals like frolic when they're feeling like playful. But I was not entertained. I'm like, I still have to get ready to go to church. Get in the barn. I didn't want to go in the barn.
Nope.
So that's been super fun.
Yep.
That's been super fun. And that's something I dread when kidding season comes, because that routine's going to change. And I really love my routines. It makes my mornings go really fast. That's the only thing that I really hate about kidding season, is that my routines just go out the door and I go into survival mode.
Yeah.
Which means my videos will slow down and the lives will slow down. And I'm just getting caught up. Has anybody noticed that? I'm just now starting to get caught up on my videos. You guys are about to see one from around Christmas. So we're almost caught up. And I'm like, and kidding season is right around the corner, and I will fall so far back again. I will try not to.
The opportunity to be part of Fermented February.
Yeah, so if anybody watched videos today, I was invited to collaborate for the third year on Fermented February. And it's always super fun because Anna always gives me a creative license. And even though I was very much procrastinating she's as awesome, usual, I really enjoy being a part of that collaboration. And
she's an awesome person. We met her a couple times at Homesteaders America. And
she's so
really
nice.
Yeah.
That's the one thing that I don't think I ever expected from YouTube, is the community that some of you guys, like even Megan, like I knew more about you on YouTube, and I knew about you way before I actually got to meet you in real life. But I love that those relationships have come like in a full circle, where you're in communities together because you're supporting one another as creators. And then you comment on each other's videos, or then you go to someplace and you meet each other one-on-one. You're like, well, we really do get together. Yeah. We do get along, and you're friends.
And what's cool with homesteading is, like, there's that universal like-mindedness with, the projects we do and things we do on our homesteads. But at the same point, there's such unique knowledge bases, like Anna with her fermentation. We really don't do a lot of that. And like her knowledge on it is amazing. And us getting to tinker with it is neat. Ashley loves doing it, even though she's still honing some of those skills.
Yeah. And she's nice enough. Like she commented on the video today and she's like, here's some tips for you. And I'm like,
thank you. Yeah.
Thank you.
But you've really come around to liking the
I really actually do like the kombucha. I was getting to the point where I was liking it pretty much straight.
Yeah.
It just kind of tasted like apple juice to me, like a sharp apple juice. And I really like that. So the second ferment, like with the blackberries and the lemon, oh my gosh.
Yeah.
Like it was so good. I was surprised how much I liked it. So I actually put them back in the pantry and I should probably give them a pinch of sugar to help with their fermentation. That's probably where I went wrong. And leave them in there for about 5 days. But then someone's like, if you do that, make sure you open them outside. And I was like, that's why we had them in a bowl with the bowl over the top. Because I had seen some videos where I'm like, I'm not cleaning that up. Yeah. Like, I'll just burn my house down rather than clean up that mess. Because it goes on the roof and everything. Yeah. Could you imagine blackberry puree all over the roof?
Yeah, that'd be pretty tough to get off the ceiling.
I don't want to do that.
Also, like, who was it? The Allens. They were talking about, they were doing the deer. And they were trying to can it, remember, and they exploded and they had deer meat all over their kitchen.
Yeah, she said it only happened to one batch, but she did her meat canning in the oven with deer canning. And she said it exploded. It blew the door open and everything. I was like, well, I don't know if I want to do. Yeah. I don't know if I want to do that. So
yeah. So Rose said she's been having her job's been kicking her butt lately, but it's getting her in shape.
Oh, good. Well,
yeah, Ashley's getting ready to go into a heavy work spell too. Or did you sort of wrap
No, we're not even close. Like we're ramping up. We both work for Liberty Mutual, and I work in what's called public entity, which is schools. And schools apparently all like to renew their insurance in July.
Yeah.
All of them. I'm like, can we not space this out a little bit? So we're getting ready to go into a dead sprint for a couple of months, paired with kidding and milking and showing and everything else. I can't guarantee, I don't look great now. I can't guarantee you what I'm going to be coming to you looking like in the next couple of months.
Yeah. I'm
going to be very tired, I'm sure, but we'll get through it. Everybody gets through it. It whips you into shape, like Mo said.
Especially has a lot of up and downs.
It does have up and downs. After July, like I'll be dead.
Yeah.
Not me physically, but the work will be dead. I won't have a lot to do. And then from November really to February, like I'm twiddling my thumbs, which isn't terrible. Sometimes that's nice, but sometimes it makes the days go very, very long.
Ultraman said that we need to record that with the goats running around. I'm pretty sure.
I would just hope I use Christian language in it because that is like my vice when I am upset. It's hard not to laugh
watching it though. It is sort of
he said like the other day because like the one was juking around me and it's just, if I can get one of the head does to go in, I'm fine. But if she decides she doesn't want to go in, nobody's going in. So I had a pitchfork. I wasn't using the pointy end, but I was like lifting it over my head like a caveman, like woo woo. Like Mark came out. He's like, "What are you doing?" I'm like, making myself big so they are scared, so they run away from me. He's like, "It didn't work." I'm like, "I know."
Yeah.
But it made me feel bigger and
they're scary. They feed them, so they're not scary.
They know I'm never going to do anything to them.
Yeah. Mo said she loved that video. Walterman said it's amazing how God brings people together.
It really is. We've really
been blessed with so many families we've met.
Yeah,
especially the Waltermans.
Yes,
we've had the opportunity to
friends.
Go over their place. They have a beautiful place. The woods that they have, we're jealous of. Walking around through them, it's just gorgeous.
It is.
They have a lot of plans for it ahead.
They do have a lot of plans, and I don't know, Megan, if you still have room in your foraging class, but I'm going to go do that at the end of May. I think it's May 25th.
Yeah, if you have any links to it, Megan, feel free to throw them in there for that. Because, you were.
It's going to be. I'm going.
Yeah,
I'm going to go.
And I was interested.
And Mark's
to see if Dylan's there.
Is Dylan going to be around?
If he's
I could
not
just
forging,
hang out.
I at least could hang out. So
like,
either way, I'll plan on that. So Yvonne said, "What is kombucha?"
Okay, so kombucha is just fermented tea. So I make it by starting off tea, like in the packets. I boil the water, put in X amount of sugar, and put in the tea packets. Let it come to room temperature. And I put it in with my already established SCOBY or symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. And it sits in the tea and it eats the sugar, and the sugar is what fuels the fermentation. and it turns it into kombucha. You can tell when it's kombucha because it gets lighter, and kombucha in itself is a little fizzy. It's that second fermentation though that is supposed to make it super fizzy. But I'm still
working on it.
still working on the
Still
kinks
working
on
on
that.
the
Still working
recipe
out the
there.
kinks.
Yep.
So Moses, I want to start doing sourdough starter. Me too. I have a dehydrated starter that I bought from a friend, and it's still sitting there looking at me, taunting me every day about how much of a wimp I am.
Yeah, my sister
I'm afraid
made a
I'll
batch of-
kill it, but his sister did start doing
Yeah.
sourdough, so I'm like, at least I have someone to lean on again for that. So
Mhm.
yeah.
Going back to kombucha real quick too, it has a lot of good health properties to it.
Yeah, there's a lot of gut health.
A lot of good, digestive
Mhm.
health to it.
Yeah, fermentation is off. I mean, a lot of people before there was canning, like fermentation was one of the main ways that people would preserve their foods.
Yeah.
Just because like it acidifies it and it
What
takes
did you
it
do
from.
the first year?
I did milk kefir.
Yeah, milk kefir with the
kefir.
goat's milk. Yep.
Yeah. I put in the kefir grains and it turned it into kefir, which is kind of like a soupy yogurt.
Mhm.
Buttermilk. It tastes a lot like buttermilk, but
Yeah.
like a little bit sweeter because I don't like buttermilk, but I didn't mind this.
Yeah.
I didn't stick with that.
And like you can actually find it in stores places
You can
too.
find
We
it
found
in
out
stores,
Aldi's.
and I didn't find the store version to be nasty,
Yeah.
and I didn't find my version to be disgusting either. There's just something about leaving milk out at room temperature that kind of bothers me a little. I understand that's part of what makes the fermentation happen, but there's something up here that doesn't click with me leaving it out. It didn't taste bad. It wasn't a hard process. It just was not like my favorite thing.
I still have trouble with goat's milk and the cream on top. When you go to pour it in your cereal,
I just
and it,
need to
like,
skim it for
clumps,
you.
yeah.
I really need
I
to skim
struggle with
it.
that. I'm a texture person.
Are you?
Yes.
You're like me?
Yes, I am. Especially with dairy products, at least.
Yeah, dairy products. Well, it's because I remember I'll never forget the story. He says he used to work at a pallet factory when he was a teenager.
Yeah.
So like hard labor, hot, no air conditioning. He's like, he loves chocolate milk or strawberry milk sometimes, like after a long day. And he used to like it a lot more often. He doesn't do it anymore. But he went in there and he got was it strawberry milk?
It was chocolate
It was
milk,
chocolate milk, and it was very, very expired. And he didn't know, and he went to take a big swig of it, and it was cottage cheese.
Yeah, it was
Chocolate
rough.
cottage cheese. So
This,
after that, never again.
yeah, this chewy milk. Yeah.
He will religiously look at the expiration dates, and it makes me so mad. Who else does? Is there anybody in here that looks at expiration dates and actually listens to them? Because I'm like, it's still good.
When
it
I'm
smells
shopping
fine.
even for like yogurts or anything, I'll look at each little one.
Like,
to see.
I will do the sniff test. I'm like, it
And
smells
I've ingrained
okay.
it in our daughter, so she does it now.
I
too.
know you guys gang up on me, and I'm
You're
like,
just
it's
sitting
fine.
there waiting, and it,
So then,
just like this one's further out. Get this one.
or they'll be like, "This is getting ready to go bad. Dump that milk." I'm like, "No, I'm going to make a bowl of cereal. We're not
Yeah.
going to waste that milk. Like, we're not going to do it.
Yeah.
It smells fine."
Mhm.
But I do understand like there are mental blocks that people
Mhm.
have. I have my own.
Yeah.
They just don't
Like
involve
before, I was
expiration
more of a
dates.
skim milk drinker, and so like goat's milk is much thicker.
It's very thick.
Yeah, and especially if it sits for a bit, like the bottles that she has have like a thin neck on them,
Yeah.
and the cream will actually get so thick in it when you go to pour it clogs
Yeah,
it.
you have to kind of give it a
Yeah,
shake.
yeah.
And if he
Slowly
shakes it,
coming
it
around.
breaks it up and then it comes out in chunks and he's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah, it hits like your Cheerios.
and I'm
and
like, it's your
bounces
cream.
around.
It's just the cream. That's why it's skimming the cream off the top.
Mhm.
Barn words, Yvonne. I love that.
Yeah,
That's what I'm going to call them. But they're not Christ-like words. They're
Yeah.
barn words.
I like that.
I can be scary sometimes, Megan. Sometimes.
And Wolterman said they do have the links on their Facebook page for that, and Dylan will probably
Okay,
be around.
good. Then
so-
Mark will be in tow.
Mhm. They could show us their new dog they got too. It was
Oh
off
yeah,
one.
that's
they got that new.
right. I
Yep.
should know its name. Is it Pete? Is the new dog's name Pete? Did I remember,
Pete.
Megan? I think it's Pete.
Because they have coonhounds. So
Yeah.
they're
So Mo said, I am a delivery driver for Kroger, the hub, not the store.
Mm.
3 flights of stairs today with 5
Ooh.
cases of soda and 2.
Wow. Yeah, you were definitely
Boo,
putting in the physical
gross.
labor. Jeez.
Yeah, man. I'm sorry. I bet your knees hurt after
Yeah.
that. That makes my knees and my hips hurt just
Mhm.
reading that. Yvonne says, I love canning. I find it hard work but relaxing. It is.
Yeah.
I like it. I don't know why I was so scared of it.
Yeah.
But I
Because
like
you
it
started to
now.
do a lot. So we built a little root style cellar in our basement.
Yeah.
It's just a little room, and she's been canning away, filling it up because it has quite a bit of shelving
Mhm.
in it. And we've done chicken, we've done garden
Deer.
vegetables.
There's
what,
deer in
corn-
there.
Yeah,
There's venison in there,
corn,
corn, peppers,
yeah, all kinds of
salsa,
things. So
tomato
marinara
sauce,
sauce, yeah.
marinara sauce. Yeah, just
So
a lot of, and I've got a ton of butternut squash down there right now.
Yeah.
Because I had one plant and it gave me like 40 squash.
Yeah.
It was
Hattie said she
pretty
always
bad.
looks at the dates.
So
too.
does Margie. So
Yeah.
everybody in here says,
Yeah.
I do. I'm outnumbered. No, most says I do. Some people are just very sensitive
Yeah.
to it. My mother-in-law swears by the expiration dates. Vaughn says, I have a crazy brother-in-law that checks that date on the
On
frozen
frozen
food
food.
and throws them out. I
Oh,
couldn't do
man.
it. I'd be like, no, you
Oh,
don't
Danette.
know. Hi, Danette. How are you?
Oh, they just she has
Oh, a
single buckling, bottle baby.
buckling.
He pees on puppy pad now, thank God, but he chews on
Oh
all the
my
paperwork.
gosh.
Yeah.
I'm so sorry. Well, I'm happy he's doing good
Mhm.
though. Bruce, look at that.
We haven't
Look
seen
who's
him in a while.
here. It's good to see you.
How are your hives doing over the winter? Ashley checked on ours
I lost two.
a couple weeks ago. Yeah, I lost 2, but the rest are doing well.
It is
so,
what it is.
Yep.
What, no, we have 6?
Yep.
Down from 8 to 6, which is okay.
Yeah.
I was right. It was Pete.
Yep.
I'm going to pat myself on the
Yeah.
back because I remember. Mo says we will be having an exciting day on Monday. Barn
And
shell
so
is
it's going up.
going
Oh,
up,
wow.
and it's been 2 seasons that the horses have been out in the elements. Such troopers. Good for you.
That's
I'm so
awesome.
happy for you. You know, his sister just built a barn, and I remember when my barn was a shell,
Yeah.
and I looked at it and I'm like, this is the fun part because you get to like design how it
Strategize you're gonna make
looks
it
and
work.
like the setup. And she's like, yeah, but then we actually have to install. And then I remembered that and I'm like, oh yeah, that
Mhm.
part is a little dicey having to actually do the labor. But
Yeah.
good for you. I'm really excited for that. I'm excited for
Yeah.
you to
They're
have your
loving
barn.
it because they do have a loft now for hay storage.
Yeah, they didn't have that before.
And yeah, that's
It's
a
been
big
nice.
godsend.
It's been nice.
Megan
Oh.
asked, "What's your favorite thing to can?"
I like to can meat. I like
Mhm.
chicken and the venison. I don't know why either. I think it's because that was one of the few things that I was like, I have to learn how to pressure can because I want to pressure can meat. I want to have shelf stable meat that I don't rely
have
on
to
either like
refrigerate
drying
it.
it out or having it frozen or digging like an underground root cellar and salting and oiling it, which I would really love to learn to do more primitive preservation of meat, like how Hand Tune does. If anybody's ever been to like Homesteaders of America or a homesteading conference where Hand Tune is at, they always have out like prosciutto,
Mhm.
and it's always got just like these wonderful layers of like oil, and it has like the date, and I'm always just so
Yeah.
enthralled with that. But I really like to can meat. I don't know why. It makes me feel powerful.
Yeah.
It's weird, but it does make me feel powerful. That was a good question.
Mhm.
I haven't tried meats yet. Don't be afraid. They're super easy.
Yep.
They're super, super, super easy. I think I've only had one like siphon, and even then it wasn't like a big deal.
Mhm.
So Mo says creating the stalls is the fun part. There will be a video. Oh,
Oh,
yay!
nice! How exciting!
That's exciting. I love that. Is like a weird like thing that I love when people show pictures of their barn or like videos. I'm like, I'll zoom in and be like, what are there hacks here that I can see that I want to adopt? Because it's just so neat. Everybody puts like stalls in barns together differently, and some of them I look at the setup and I'm like, I couldn't have this setup. And others I'm like, I wish I had this setup.
Yeah.
But a lot of times it depends on the livestock that you have. I know when we first built our stalls, what are they, like 12 by 12s?
12 by 11.
12 by
That's
11s.
excellent.
We wanted like horse stalls because I didn't know what direction I was going to go into. He knew I was going to go into goats because he was already pushing me. But we were also thinking about resell. Like if we wanted to attract the people that want to dump money in a barn, it'd be horse people,
Mhm.
So we have larger stalls, but it's nice because like we can take panels and divide those up for our miniature dairy goats.
Yeah.
And
Or if we
pretty
have
much
them
split
in
it
there
into
for a
3
while, they
stalls.
have plenty of room to
Yeah.
run.
Like when we
Like
have the
if-
deep
yeah.
freezes or blizzards, like there's plenty of room.
Or if we
because
bring
open
a
up
new
those
goat in,
stalls.
we have plenty of time to quarantine it in a pen for a little
Absolutely.
while. So,
Well, and I actually have a new honeydew for you once you're done with the duck pen. So
Yeah.
in our stalls, we have 3 against the wall. And I told him, I'm like, I want a gate between each stall so that if like per se we have a big blizzard and I run all of my goats in, I can literally just open those gates that divide stalls to make it all one big run in
Mhm.
so that my girls have enough room to get away from one another. And I say that because all animals have hierarchies, just like humans have hierarchies, and we like to pick on one another and bully. Animals do the same thing, and I found like the larger my herds gets, because I'm a hoarder, the less room they have at times like that. And I'm like, you guys need to have room to move away from one another. So that was one of the main reasons I want to have
and also
that.
the fact because they open up to the main area. So one thing we sort of learned with the livestock guardian dogs is we'd bring them in at night and separate them because they were still learning what they were doing, and we'd have to let them out into the main area of the barn. And fortunately, they were, even as puppies, pretty laid back and would just sort of just go right back to their pen as a comfort zone. But it's always a little, especially with the goats. The goats are like, as soon as they get out of their main pen, the grass is greener in on the other side of the fence.
They're on
and
heroin.
They're just like
they're
looking
just
for
everywhere.
food. They just go
into everything, on top of everything.
They'd go into the rabbit feed when it was out. They'd go find the hay pile. They'd try to make it into the milk room. So with these gates in between each pen, she could just leave them right in.
Move animals from pen to pen without them coming out of a pen.
And again, that's something we just have learned from using what we have, and hey, this would make it a little easier.
It would make it easier. And then it also makes me understand why when you see larger operations, like especially with cattle or sheep, like they have chute systems, or they have systems where it's pen to pen to pen to pen.
Talking about that because they had a huge pasture set up. It was 25,000 acre leases.
That was on that was Wingers.
Yeah. They were talking about
of America.
Their chute systems, which were elaborate because of how big their farm was. I mean, they were
but they were portable, so they could move them along and set them up.
Someone asked, I have 2 cows and have trouble moving them in a 1 acre pasture. He's like, just study on it and figure it out. He's like, we have 3 25,000 acre leases, and we have to move cattle around.
He's like, we're moving 2,000 head with 3 people on quads and a couple of movable pens.
Yeah.
And I was like, ooh, that's kind of like saying figure it out, dummy, without saying figure it out, dummy. Yeah. But that's things that you also learn through trial and error. So while I could appreciate the common sense of his response, I also didn't like I'm like, this is a new person.
Yeah.
They don't know.
Feel it out.
You can tell they didn't even really know how to work cattle. So for someone who lives it and breathes it 24/7, I find myself doing this as well. So I'm preaching to myself where I'm like, you got to have grace for people when they're new and they don't know, because I will find myself yelling. I'll have a question. I'll be like, Mark, where is the common sense in this world? He's like, they don't know. I'm like, you're right.
Gotta learn from somewhere.
and there's so much.
A lot of that where it seems like it should be logic has been lost over the years, and people are learning it.
And honestly, this social media and having things at your fingertips, while it's amazing and it opens up a lot of different avenues to pull in information, it also opens up avenues to pull in false information. So I find you have a ton of information, but sifting through it and vetting it is really hard if you don't have a good permanent starting point. Yeah.
Yeah. Ashley's, I think, admin on a couple goat boards and at least follows them closely. And some of the questions on there, it's just, you can tell somebody's totally brand new to it and trying to figure it out. And I honestly don't have the in-depth knowledge she does on definitely on the goat health and medicinal use and stuff like that. But being raised around goats, I can tell when something's wrong, and I'll be like, hey, Ashley, this goat out here, something's not right with it. And I can usually identify that. And some of that's just being raised around them. But if you've never been raised around them, people go into a little bit of a shock. It's crazy. On just a little
everybody thinks goats are the easy thing to start with. I'm like, no, if you literally can raise goats successfully and keep them healthy, you can do anything. You can raise and have anything on your farm.
Just like the old even when we did some of our talks at conferences and stuff, people have that misconception still that goats can eat anything, and it's just no, they're actually
you can't feed
pretty
them tin
fragile
cans.
And stuff like that.
You can't feed them tin cans.
So once you get hands-on with it, I mean, you've come a long way. You didn't have goats at all before.
No,
we moved here.
No, but I think that's why I kind of get, my heart is hardened in that way, because when I tell someone you need to have a mentor, it's because I didn't have a mentor. And I did go through I have to go through all this information. I have to vet and I have to find good resources. And then even from there, twist it to where it works for my situation. because like when I first got goats, like I was driving 3 hours commuting time going back and forth to work with you.
Yeah.
So like the things I can do now or recommend now, like I have to say, if this isn't good for your situation, then don't do it. And you need to morph it to where it fits you, because livestock husbandry, homesteading is not a one size fits all. Like it's very fluid. You can do it in lots of different ways. I really dislike when people are like, this is the way, the only way. And some things are like that, but for the most part, everything is moldable.
Yeah.
Everything is moldable.
I feel like one thing nice though is, with the conferences and social media, I mean, there are so many resources now to get started. Like you can get that knowledge from all over. But again, it's where you have to vet that knowledge too, to be careful with it. So, and even Ashley, like my sister's into goats heavily, and she is a goat judge, and definitely from the show side can give us a lot of pointers. And Ashley always worries if she's going barn blind, where you look at all the goats, and you just sort of
they all look great,
glaze over what some of the imperfections are. So she helps on that aspect. But with that much goat knowledge between them, they even bounce it off of each other. I know they'll ask each other questions constantly just for confirmation on, hey, am I treating this right? Or
absolutely.
Am I looking
and
at
there is
way?
Power in the hive mindset where you put yourself in a situation and you talk to other people that have things or are in the same, I don't know, branch tier as you when it comes to livestock, and like where your level is, and people that are above you. Because a hive mind, you can literally bounce things off one another that you're like, I didn't think of that.
Yeah.
There have been a lot of things that his sister said, I'm doing this. And I sat and looked at it and was like, I'm going to do that too, because like that does look like it's a good practice. So
yeah.
All righty, back to not droning on about goats. I could do it all night long. Moan says, I want to learn pressure canning also, maybe next year. Do it, girl.
Yeah.
You'll love it. You'll feel so powerful. Seriously, like I don't know why, but canning makes me feel very powerful. Like like if the world goes down, like I'm going to be okay. I'll be able to preserve my own food. She also said Greg was talking about pigs or goats to clean up some of the farm areas. I wanted to try chickens. All are good. In tandem, they can be.
Yeah, pigs are something we're still wanting to get, especially because we have quite an abundance of milk, and that's a good source for it.
Pigs will be good about turning your soil and creating good soil and eating low-hanging things. Goats will like high-hanging things. They eat most of the things that your horses probably don't want to eat, nor should they eat. And your chickens just go through and spread the manure and add nitrates. So that like if you ran them in those tandems, that would be
the Dohertys were big on you need a farm pig, right? Like they were
every farm should have a pig, and it's because then nothing goes to waste. And nothing goes to waste. And really, when you're living a sustainable lifestyle, that is the goal. You want to do as much as you can and waste as little as you can. And whatever you're putting into a hog, 9 times out of 10, you're either going to get it back through them providing more meat, or they themselves going to provide freezer meat. So I understand that mindset, especially if you have a milk cow or you have a dairy animal. That's what it was. If you have a dairy animal, you should have a pig. And that's something we're working towards.
Honestly, we've learned from in the past, don't stretch ourselves too thin, because we just kept getting animals
one species at a time.
Have the setup yet. So that's something we're going to work on probably this upcoming year, start to look at a setup for. We've already sort of got an area mapped out. But quick funny thing, growing up, of course I was in 4-H and had hogs, but we also had goats, and we would give them goat's milk with their cornmeal or corn mash, we'd call it, and stir it up, and they would eat it. I mean, dead of summer, they would still eat, because sometimes during when it's real hot out, the pigs will slow down eating due to the heat, and you try to keep pushing, wait for the fair. I think like 3 years running, I had like the fattest hogs in the fair. And these guys, when they run, you could just see it ripple, like the jiggle of the fat. So, of course, they didn't do well in the fair because they want that muscle tone. But like,
couldn't judge the carcass very well.
We had people like 2 different people that bought the pigs. They called us afterward. They're like, "Oh, we don't know what you did, but those pigs were delicious. Like they had fat on them, like this one, all the marbling."
We know.
So at least it tastes good. I mean, they may not look good because they're all jiggles, but it was a good use of the goat smoke, and they ate it like it's candy.
The only thing that I will warn you with hogs is I do know that they're good with other animals until they're not.
Yeah.
So I see lots of people running hogs with goats and chickens. And I think I was talking to Cody Hanner from the Homestead Education on her podcast. And she was like, yeah, we were talking about pigs. And I was like, yeah, it's on my mind. But, the fact that I would really have to try to not let them run with other animals, the fact that they need separate penning it goes against them. She's like, oh, absolutely. I had a sow that was laying there next to the feed pan, and a chicken walked up and she just snagged the chicken and ate it. She's like, the feed pan was full. Like she just wanted the chicken. She just ate it because she wanted to eat it. And she's like, well, what am I going to do? Go pull it out of the pig's mouth? She's like, I was like, well, I mean, I guess I'm eventually going to eat that chicken because I'm going to eat the sow at some point. So that's my only caution. And that is also one of those where people be like, I run them successfully. And other people will say they're good until they're not good.
Yeah.
You just have to make your own decision.
Yeah. And that's one thing we've weighed is since we don't like the idea of running with goats, especially we have show goats and they're smaller goats and everything like that anyways. And then like you said, they're fine until they aren't fine.
Yeah.
We've dropped off a bit of the coons. We were looking at coons or whatever.
Still would like to have
They're cool, yeah. But it'd probably be something more that would provide for us. So we'd probably run like a feeder pig, maybe get one that somebody couldn't sell for 4-H and was just looking to offload and just have a small pen. That's what I grew up with.
Absolutely.
And you just have them for a couple months.
Well, then you're supporting local kids too. I think it's important. That's one thing too. Like if you want pigs and you want to have them, you want to eat them, butcher them without having to raise them, go to a local 4-H fair. A lot of times, like for us, we can't find packers in the area. A lot of times, like they go through auction and they have to take them home. It's really hard to find pig packers around here. So like for us, it wouldn't be hard for us to be like, you want to sell that hog? We'll pay you, you send it to the processor and we'll pay the processor. We'll pay you the poundage of pig and we'll pay the processing fee. And that's usually how people will do things, especially here in Indiana, because I don't think you can legally sell butchered meat from your homestead. It has to go through a state inspected or a USDA inspected plant processor. So that's kind of how they have to do it here. So I got behind. Yvonne says, yeah, if you haven't done it or even been around livestock, people just don't know. I always tell my husband, I know just enough to get by and just enough to be dangerous. Then you're good. You're good. If you can get by and be dangerous with
your failures, that's something we've learned a lot from. I mean, as long as you're making progress. Celebrate the wins. So
Idaho pasture pigs, I've heard great things about them, Mo. I think that would be the step up from like coonies, just because, but everybody likes coonies though, because they graze and they don't root. So I do think Idaho pasture, they're a cross between coonies and something else. I think, I cannot remember. They graze too, but I think they grow faster than coonies. So if you're wanting a fast growing pig,
the thing
probably
too
what
is,
I would go with.
I'm pushing into more like a feeder hog. Is everything we have, we sort of have like a breeding program or try to breed, and it's like
another headache.
Our plate's pretty full at the moment. So I like the idea of something where we can bring on the farm, feed up to weight, and then.
Or even if Joe wants to show it in 4-H, then fine, go take it through auction, then we'll butcher it when it comes home. We do that with the chickens already. We already literally do that with some of her projects. And then she gets supported by the community, and then she supports the family by having a project that comes home and feeds us, or we sell.
But at the conference we had, what was it? Was it Irish Mud? Texas.
Irish Mud.
And they had piglets there. Oh
my
and
gosh.
They were cute. People, I mean, that was probably one of the top attractions there. People just kept stopping by and looking at them.
They were really cute.
I had to keep an eye on Ashley because I was afraid she was going to go over there and like grab a couple.
Luckily, I was too busy to do that.
I'm like, why does that chicken look funny in the back of the truck? Oh,
it's a pig.
Yeah, it's a piglet.
It's a pig. Just like glue some feathers on it to get it by. I'm like, I don't know what happened to that chicken. It looks weird.
All right.
Oh, Yvonne says, I always gave the corn shucks and cobs to my cows when I freeze corn. The cows love it. When we pulled our corn, I keep all the stalks because it gives the goats something to do. So I've been actually feeding corn stalks. It gives them, it's an enrichment. It's probably not a lot nutritional value for them, but it gives them something to do other than just munch on the hay all day.
Totally agree with
they
that.
seem like they enjoy it. And the livestock guardian dogs like running around with the entire stalk. They're wild. They're crazy to watch. So Mo says, 4-H, that's a good idea. Coonies look like walks. They do. They do.
Ewoks,
like Ewoks. They do.
Especially as piglets. They were all scrunch faced.
They really do. 4-H is a good way to go. trying to think what else
Yeah.
you could do with that, but
Yeah, I feel like Kunis also have gotten into that situation where we're running into Nigerian dwarfs too, where the breeding has just been so pushed. Like we're seeing, and I think Irish Mud was talking a lot about like the breed quality is
Mhm.
suffering because of it. And that's something Ashley actually had a conversation with a lady on one of the goat forums just the other day on.
And she was not happy with
Yeah.
what I was saying
And
to
like,
her.
why do you push just, high quality only goats and stuff like that? It was because not only because we show them, but because there's been some bad traits that have started to come through that we've
Mhm.
seen with Nigerian dwarfs, where if you have like an established breed, like an Alpine Nubian,
They've
they've
been
been
bred
bred
to
out.
a
Yeah.
standard for so long.
You're going to see a
The
lot of
genetic
consistency.
dice is not rolled as heavily weighted for
Mhm.
them. Like it's not as variable. Good goat, Nubians and Alpines probably going to get a good goat. Good goat for Nigerians. It's
Tough.
a total toss up still because
And
they're
there's
just
some
so
of these
new.
ugly traits that just pop up. I mean, you can get, double
Double
teats,
teats.
fish
Double
teeth,
teats, fish teeth, short cannon bones.
and those are in a show ring. Those are even a no-go.
Yeah,
And then
those are DQs.
and
like
then on
you
top
can't
of
walk
that,
in with them.
to use it as a useful goat on the farm, that makes it troublesome when they have an extra teat or a fish teat. That's a pain in the
Extra
milk
orifices, especially because a lot of people. What I have found is that people will buy Nigerian dwarfs because they're like, I want a miniature dairy goat for my homestead. And I pushed it in my last talk on how to pick really productive animals. And I told people, like, I'm going to focus on Nigerians because this is what I specialize in. It is really hard to justify buying papered pets where they're like, I want to sell ADGA. I'm like, but do you really understand what it says on the papers and what this means? Like when it comes to milk production, confirmation and all of that. And here's why it matters. The lady that I was arguing with, the ADGA is now going to start requiring that all bucks born in 2024 have to have DNA on file in order to register their progeny. And this lady was really upset. She's like, why are they doing this? Because it's monopolizing the registry. And how are we going to afford to register all these bucks? And I chimed right in. I'm like, you probably only need to be registering 1% of the bucks that come out of your farm because bucks are your MVP genetically. If they aren't outstanding, if they do not have productive milk lines or phenomenal conformation or something that really sets them apart behind them, then they don't deserve to breed. Not everything born with testicles should breed. I will stand by that when it comes to humans as well. Just because they're born with testicles does not mean that they should go on to contribute to a genetic pool.
And we've eaten Nigerian dwarf bucks because of that. We just didn't see the bloodlines for.
She's like, well, we don't eat ours. And I'm like, well, then take them to the sale barn. You need to weather them and send them off as companion pet. But then I don't make the money. Did you get into goats for money? Because I'm sure as heck not making money off my goats. I mean, I don't know anybody making money off their goats unless they're doing those high quality lines that you should be breeding to obtain.
Yeah, one thing that's one thing we push in the conference talks when we go and even talk to other people getting into goats is they'll pay extra for blue eyes or moon spots on a goat. But the pedigree is terrible, where if they spent that money on the pedigree, more likely you're going to get a well-built goat that's going to have longevity in its life and quality life. That's going to provide more. I mean, hate to say it, but a blue-eyed goat is not going to give you any more benefit.
It does not affect the milk in the pail. It does not affect the meat on hoof.
Yeah,
that doesn't affect
the bone
anything.
Structure that causes them.
So when she's like, I have a blue-eyed buck that I just can't sell. I'm like, because he's a papered pet. I'm like, you're saying that he should be selling because he has blue eyes. I am really, really sorry. Blue eyes are worth nothing anymore because of people flooding the markets. And I will stand by that with pedigree dogs as well.
Or like Kunis, like we were saying, Irish Mud was just saying the market's getting flooded and they're just seeing a lot that are.
Or people claiming these are Kunis and they're not papered. And I understand that not everybody wants papered. That's totally fine. Like you do you on your farm. If papering isn't important to you, that's great. But then when you turn around and try to sell it and say it's a purebred Kuni, you can't prove that. Therefore, you can't charge that price for it. You know, people I've seen come into a ring for pygmies and their eyes are blue. I'm like, that is not a purebred pygmy. And whoever sold that animal to them saying it was a pygmy, they railroaded them. That's highway robbery saying or especially it's even sad for 4-H projects to see kids walk into a ring with an animal that was sold to them as a specific thing, and they don't know any better because they don't have a mentor, or they didn't have someone to steer them the correct way. And for a judge to be like, they're DQ'd because this animal has blue eyes, it is not a pygmy. Like, this has got Nigerian dwarf blood in it. It has to, because I think they're the only dairy goat breed that has blue eyes.
Mm-hmm.
It can't be that, or that they walk in with moon spots, and it's like, pygmies actually have specific agouti patterns that they have to have. Some colorations are DQs for these. So for me, I know people are like, well, in homesteading, you can't say that you're homesteading with show goats. Well, I am homesteading with show goats. I am homesteading with goats that we put to milk test to see, are they high producers? And we're getting to that point now where we're refining our breeding, where it's like, if your conformation isn't there, because conformation means you'll live a long life because you're built the way that you should be, so that your body can support the production for a long period of time. And if you don't have good milking lines behind you, or you're not putting the milk in the pail, which I can prove via my milk testing, then they don't deserve to be in my breeding program. That breeding program is specific to our farm. Other people don't do that, and that's totally fine. But then when you come to me and say, I think you should spend $500 on my blue-eyed moon-spotted doe, and I look at their papers, I'm like, are they proven? Well, they've had babies. Where are their milk tests? Well, we don't milk test. Well, how do you know that she's milking what you said she's milking? Or how do you know she has good conformation? Has she been into a show ring? Have you been appraised? No. For my herd, that is just a no-go. For other herds, that's fine, but then that needs to be priced accordingly. But that is what saturates markets. So now we have homesteaders that got in, don't like goats, or decided, my Nigerian dwarf doesn't hardly milk anything. Like, because you bought from inferior lines.
Bought it for the blue eyes and moon spots.
And thought they were going to milk a gallon a day. Unless you have the data behind that to prove that that's actually what they can do and produce, you might as well throw it out the. I have really gotten on my soapbox about goats. How did you get me here? You got me here with the cooties. Wow, you got me like.
Yvonne said amen. And Yvonne, I know, has I believe it's Longhorn, so I don't know if they're probably in that aspect with some of that, but I know just a lot of the homesteading, they get into these specific breeds that they like, and most said I did.
Most said I did. At least
I'll let her take.
At least you took the blame. You owned up.
But homesteading's gotten that way with a lot of that, where we had people just wanting to buy us when 2020 happened, and the whole Black Swan event. We had people just wanting to buy a single goat, and then there's just like, I'll have a milk goat then, and it's like, no, you have to breed it to have a milk goat. And then people buy these things and they don't realize, they think homesteading, like, I can just live off the land. It's like, well, you got to feed the animal, you got to house the animal, you got to do all these things for the animals. We've had people reach out to us and want a house goat, and we're like, I don't think that's a good idea. Just as like an indoor pet. Now, yes, we've had goats in our house several times. We've raised them in our house for a short bet. Squeakers still comes in the house. A la Squeakers, who is our sort of house goat. But as like pushing him into just like treating him like a dog, that doesn't always work. And also there's that mindset, they see it on somewhere and they're like, oh, it's gonna be fun, and then it starts jumping all over the furniture and leaving the little what do you call them? Bubba tea balls all over the floor or couch. Goat berries. Yeah, goat berries. Goat berries all over the place. Yeah, it's bad. Yeah, it's bad. That's something we're just trying to push along, and that's what's nice with the homesteading conferences, is we're able to bring that knowledge in to say, here's what to look for, here's what to push for. Blue eyes, moonspot. Ashley loves seeing them. She gets excited. She thinks they are cool. I get a really good animal, it's got those, I'm like, bonus. Yeah, baby, I get to have those, but I don't breed for them or buy for them. We were talking to a big breeder at one of the shows, and she's just like, I'm so sick of seeing that. And it's like, yeah, that's what counts the most is, conformation, correct. Well, what it comes down to is that people buy animals and they're like, this is a lot of money that I'm putting into this animal. How can I get a little bit of a return? And papered animals are worth more money because you can prove their lineage. Yeah. But they're only so good for so long before you get people who are like, well, I mean, and then you have just situations where there's been inbreeding because things weren't papered and stuff like that. And I mean, we've seen some horrific goat pictures, like one eye goats. Have you guys ever seen those pictures of that? And that's where breeding practices have just gotten so out of hand. You want some nightmare material, you go down that route. We knew a family that was in a show goats when we were younger, and they were inbreeding so bad the goats actually just kept getting smaller, and they were standard sized goats and they just kept shrinking. It was like
they
a
weren't
sign.
bringing in new bloodlines.
Mhm. It was overbreeding.
They said we have a closed herd. I'm like, I can tell.
Yeah.
I can tell. It's been
Oh,
closed
this
for
one's
a
only
long
like 6 months old.
time.
No, it's like 5 years
It's been
old.
closed
What?
for a really long time.
So,
Hey, Matt, how are you?
Hey, crazy.
What's
kids.
going on? I know crazy kids
It's-
always
it's-
at it. Always at it. Most said same with
Mhm.
horses in the horse world. We in barrel racers, quarter horses, and bloodlines and
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah.
And people, the more you're in it, there's drama no matter what you get into.
Yeah.
There's
But-
drama with livestock, there's drama with gardeners, there's drama with all the people saying
Yeah.
this is the way that you have to be. So while I get passionate about how I feel about this, if you're in here and you breed papered pets,
Yeah.
you do you. Just I'm all about quality. I
Mhm.
want to sell a quality
And
animal.
that's something that just in the conferences we get asked a lot. Like people are
Mhm.
getting new into it, and it's help directing them where they're going to get a animal that's good quality for the price that they're
Mhm.
paying. So what to look for.
When we
Here's-
even said that,
Yeah.
like the last time, if you want to get an animal, right now is the time because the market is so flooded with
The
people
price,
trying to
yeah.
get rid of animals. The prices for some really stellar animals
even
are
breeders
just
are having issues
big
with,
breeders are having trouble moving their
Yeah.
stock.
and then the feed costs are up. So
There are
it's-
steals out there, and
Yeah.
I've been telling him like probably every other day. I'm like, I don't need to spend money. I don't need
Yeah.
to spend money. I don't need to spend money.
well, also you're trying to push like a homebred quality program
Yeah,
now.
I
so-
want homegrown animals that
With our name on 'em.
that win and do well.
Mhm.
But that's also to say, like, you can buy really well. And I think the market for livestock goes in a 4-year cycle pretty much. And we're at a low. So you can buy
Yeah.
really well, but make sure you want goats because if you try to get out of them, even though you got a steal, you're probably going to sell them for less than what you bought them for. Just
But
animals
I think Mo
deteriorate.
makes a good point too. Like we're in barrel racers and stuff like that because we get asked a lot. Like, what's the best goat breed? And I'm like, well, it depends on what you want to do. I mean, Nigerian dwarfs are a dairy breed. They're small. You can get a lot on acre.
Mhm.
They're definitely not the best meat breed. If you want to butcher
Mhm.
goats, you want to go to another breed. I mean, pygmies are actually
You need
more
a
of a
lot of
meat goat.
fencing for Nigerians. They do not. You get
Yeah.
pretty much everything.
You go
Like,
boar, you're getting heavy meat breed. You go Nubians, you're getting a mix.
yeah,
So
respect
really,
fencing might come through
Like
your barn wall.
we get that quite a bit. Where like
Yeah.
there's no perfect answer. It's more of what you want to
Yeah,
move forward with.
yeah. And I've had people argue with dairy sheep.
Mhm.
I'm like, the lactation never gets to the quantity that a true dairy animal is going to get to, and their lactations don't last that long, even with consistent milking. It's just proven
Mhm.
their lactation periods are not that long.
I
So
won't lie. Ashley liked Nigerians too because of all the different colors. When we started,
I
buying
did when I first
boars,
started.
she got so bored when she's like, they're just like
yeah,
white
when they
with
had
red
like
heads or-
dapples or like blacks, I'm like, I want some of those
Yeah.
because I'm
Yeah.
tired of the white bodies with the brown
Yeah.
heads.
Now Nigerians
So,
are just across the
I
board.
I was guilty, but I have evolved in my
Mhm.
ways. But it's because I've
But that's
stuck
also
with
what
it
you
long
liked in a
enough.
breed too. Like,
Well, yeah, but like it's true with that for livestock. Like what
Mhm.
it's a lot like the honeymoon phase. Like
Yeah.
in 7 years, if you still have the same animals, the same breed, you're probably going to stick with that same animal,
Yeah.
that same breed.
For me, it was the commonality they have sort of with alpines, just some minute more
Yeah.
miniature. I loved alpines. I will say, like their mentalities. Alpines are just real calm and sort of steady. These guys are a little more spastic. I will
Mhm.
say.
But if you talk
Yeah.
to other standard breeders, they'll say like they're sassy.
Mhm.
Alpines are sassy
They
compared to
can be.
others.
They can be.
But Nigerian dwarfs are just drama queens.
Mhm.
They're the only ones grown animals flipping themselves upside down.
Yeah.
In
The show
rings.
ring is hilarious to watch with Nigerians.
Well,
and like
and
the
then his-
judges understand it too.
They
Like
do.
would-
And like his sister comes back from like
Yeah.
these shows and she's like, the one lady's like, her leg's a little wet. She's like, I went to check her udder. She's like, diarrhea everywhere. It was all over my hands. I was like, she's like, it is not just wet.
Yeah.
It is this animal.
Yeah.
It's not feeling well. So we get to hear things like that. But speaking of like the goats, because we do the soaps now, we're officially LLC guys.
Yeah.
We got our EIN number.
I know that was on the title.
It was on the title, so I have to touch it.
Yeah,
I have to
it was
touch
weird
it.
seeing that letter for the first time.
Yeah, with our LLC name on it and everything. So now I get to switch my mentality,
Yeah.
trying to make things a business and to actually be profitable.
Yeah.
And I don't know. It's good, but it's
It's a
got
whole
me
new-
scared
a
straight,
whole new
man.
realm
Like
for
it
us,
is,
yeah.
it's a different mentality that I'm.
Yeah.
But I think I made my first wholesale sale for soap in South Carolina or Virginia.
Yeah,
I think it's Virginia, in Virginia. So I'll be shipping out to Virginia this week some soap, which is super, super duper fun. Scares me to death too. I've had other people invite me to sell in their shop, but we haven't talked about wholesale or if this is commission, because it hits me differently tax wise,
We
which
have a
is
friend Bill
also
that's
neat.
pushing us pretty strong on as a delivery man. So if he's out there listening,
He's like, I'll take it for
he's
you. And I'm
super nice
like,
guy.
I appreciate it, but I am so scared.
Yeah.
I am so scared to
And
take
you're
that
still playing
step.
catch up from the holidays. So.
Well, I am. I actually made 2 batches of soap today.
Yeah.
One did not turn out so well, and one I think is going to be super cool.
Yeah.
I like the fancy colors in case anybody that follows my Facebook page. I really like making the bright, fancy
and then
colors.
Coming up with unique names for them. Yeah, naming conventions for them.
The one I just made is hot pink, and it's got gold glitter and charcoal, black and gold, like in the middle of hot pink, like swirled around. I can't wait to cut it tomorrow, but I'm like, I got to give this such a bougie name. Like, that might be what it's called, is bougie. I might just call this the bougie bar.
Works.
That's the fun part of the soap.
Yep. Mo said the final question is, what are you buying this animal for? Discipline or just lawn ornament? Just say you have that animal. Yep. Yeah. And that's something we typically ask and vet with who's buying it, to understand what the purpose is they have behind it. So, well,
we had one guy came out to look at one of the goats. He didn't end up buying it, and it was just because we were very honest. Like, I think we talked him out of goats, which I didn't intend to talk him out of goats, but I'm also not going to pull punches when we're selling to people. And he's like, well, I talked to this guy at Nail, and he was saying like he had trouble keeping his kids alive, so he put in a new barn with heated concrete floors. And I was like, I'm pretty sure I know the barn you're talking about, and let me tell you, their kids come out at $2,000 a piece, easy. Not proven, so like not proven. I'm like, so like if they lose a kid, for them, that's a huge monetary loss.
But there's also like a big farm out in, was it Idaho or Washington?
Yeah, that is the complete opposite in management.
Like, and they're great quality goats too.
It's an Oberhausley herd, and she's like, if they can't give me so much milk off of the hay that I'm giving them, if they can't kid out in a blizzard and keep their kid alive, they don't belong in my herd. And it's a show quality herd. So I'm like, so we were talking like there are extremes here. And that's one of the things I tell people: if you're going to go buy a goat and you go to a barn, I ask management, I look at the barn, I look at the cleanliness standards, I ask them what are their management practices. And if I cannot mirror them, or I'm not comfortable mirroring that, I don't have the funds to mirror that, I walk away from that barn, because that's the level of care those animals are used to. And like, if they're like, we do deworming all of this time, and we do all this, and this, I'm like, your animals don't have any parasitic resistance. They don't have this, they don't have this. I know that I have high worm loads in my pasture because I already know what the animals I have on it. So we often say, like, if you go to buy something, if the management that they're doing there isn't something that you can absolutely mirror or take on yourself, then walk away from that barn, because you're gonna buy something that you probably can't keep alive. You know what I mean? Like, that's also setting yourself a bar for yourself too, where it's like, I know that these are standards that I can meet. This is a meetable expectation. It's not setting a bar way up here and investing even higher above the bar and then losing the investment because the animal dies. Yeah. So that's not saying they're always going to die, but I judge that. I'm like, what are your management like practices here, and are they comparable to mine? If they're comparable, I end up buying from that person. It's just something I go by.
So I'm going to jump to Yvonne's recent question first. Are the fainting goats used for dairy or meat? So they're more of a meat breed.
They are a meat breed, but I have seen some fainters that sport notable udders. Yeah. But not well attached.
They're more on the meat side of things. Yeah. And then the general purpose behind them was that they would put them in with sheep. And if predators came in, they would faint and become fodder for whatever predators were coming in.
I've seen show breeders run fainting goats as well. Yeah. So that if their livestock guardian dogs can't keep coyotes off of them.
Sort of a dark side to what they're. So but they are more of a meat breed.
They are more, because of that tensing is just tenderizing for their muscles. Yeah. Now I will say, like, if you put up a fainting goat udder, or even a boar that's sporting a large udder, and you put them next to like the best udders in the dairy world, they're not even comparable, because that's just not something that they breed for. It doesn't mean they can't.
Like boars on the meat side, like they can actually get away with quite a few udder defects versus a true dairy.
Yeah, like they're like they can
Mhm.
have 3 and 4 teats as long as the separation is so far up and those orifices don't milk.
And dairy goats, that's a
That is like no,
yeah,
that is an automatic
yeah,
call. Like
you're
put that
gone.
put
Yeah.
that bad boy in the freezer because that's
Yeah.
not passing on genetics. That's an automatic DQ.
Navon also said we just put our last longhorn in the freezer. My husband is having health problems and can't take care of the cows. Oh,
Oh,
sorry
I'm
to hear
so
that.
sorry
Yeah.
to hear that.
I always like looking at the pictures of them. Longhorns are just
know.
cool cattle. So
They are really cool cattle.
yeah,
They're
hopefully
definitely
maybe in the
definitely
future
different.
you can get them again.
Yeah.
They're cool. So
We're planting our gardens.
yeah.
I'm thinking of my thumbnail, and
Yeah.
I'm like, I want to stay true to my thumbnail. We talked a lot about goats.
Mm-hmm. Well, we can probably wrap things up because
Yeah, it has been about an
so
hour, and we
yeah.
try to keep it
we
not
still
too
have some
long.
animals to put up. So
Yeah, the chickens and ducks too.
yep.
So I do have that to do.
Yeah, and we mentioned earlier, but Waltermans are having their foraging class come up. When is that?
May 25th, and they're in
Okay,
southern
so
Indiana.
keep
So
an eye out for that.
if you guys want, if you follow me on Mulberry Branch Farm on Facebook, I'll post a link to that there because I'm gonna go. I already
there's
told
a bit-
Megan I'm going.
Even though we're not doing Indian Homesteading Conference, there's a lot of conferences that we've connected with. So Ashley will just post here and there on different ones that.
Mo,
we've
I'm
been
not. I really
communicating
should.
with.
I should be using something to help me keep organized.
Yeah.
I've heard good things about seed time, but I'm always like, I go and find Mother's Day on the calendar and I count back 8 weeks, 8 to 10 weeks. And after I'm like, this is where I need to starting my seeds.
One thing we do have to try this year is there was a wealthy subdivision near us that was selling. A guy bought a bunch of like gardening stuff for
it's a cold frame.
During 2020, he was like, "Oh, I'm gonna do a garden." Of course, that didn't work out. So we do have a hot box now that we're gonna try. So that'll be our first attempt.
Yeah, that'll be a lot. That'll be used a lot. Actually, I think when I'm gonna try to winter sow a couple of herbs, and that'll probably be where they go is in there, and it'll also be a place where I harden off a lot of my seedlings that I start that I can kind of keep ventilated, but the wind off of a little bit too. So it's a nice little controlled area.
And one thing else we're going to try is one of those 5-gallon bucket stands. Basically, it's a bunch of 5-gallon buckets on a rack up against the house where we have our garden boxes. We have space up against the house, and Ashley's definitely lending more towards. She used to have a ton of different flowers around the house and everything, which looked beautiful, but now we're like, let's see how we can use it for us. Yeah. So now we're going to look at using them. Yeah. So
I'm stretched thin, and I'm more on. I plant things that I can eat and use, and not just to look at. So if they're pretty, it's a plus. Yeah. But I've definitely shifted.
Canning to herbs would definitely become useful.
Herbs would be great. More vegetables, things like that.
No, so it's free, which is nice.
Well, then
all free is always
then there's
good.
No reason for me not to. There's no excuse.
I
think we're gonna go ahead and wrap it up, guys. I thank each and every one of you for spending time and talking with us.
Great to see everyone.
We do. I know I missed last week, but that's why I wanted to go ahead and do it this week. So I appreciate everyone being here. We really love talking to you guys.
Thanks for all the chats
and putting up with all the
fun times,
the goat hating going on over here. My goat snobbery, so I guess you could call it. But I'm hoping to have another video out this week. If you didn't check out the video today about fermented February, please go ahead and do that. You might. It's kind of fun. Might not be your thing, but it's interesting to learn. And of course, we're in it. So.
Yep, for sure. Well, you're in it.
I'm in it. I know you were busy doing the duck house, but we wanted to let you guys know we appreciate you. We hope that you're all staying safe out there and being kind to one another. We will catch you all in the next one. God bless you. And he hit the wrong page.
Yep.
Bye, all.
Yep. God bless. Have a good night.
Bye, guys.
How do you click that? There you go.
There. Did you do